so today's community conversation was just not about how you transition, into phase 2 for COVID-19, but understanding that whether it's good or bad, whether you say yes or no, whether you go or you stay still, it causes a ripple effect in your life. Good morning. Welcome to Coffee and Community Conversation with PKO. I'm your girl. I am PKO, and we are cool. You call me KO. If we not, you throw that P right at the beginning. I'm so excited to be here with you guys today. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the Stacey Abrams Pivot. I want you to join me in the conversation. So if you would do me a favor and share this out to your friends, tag them in it. This is a lesson of leadership for powerful women who aspire to lead. Listen, today is going to be lessons of leadership for powerful women who aspire to lead. We're talking about the Stacey Abrams Pivot, right? How many of you know that if you pivot, right, from a position, right, that there's still purpose there? I'm so excited to give you some tips, to share with you some lessons from Stacey Abrams on what she did in her life and what we can do in our life when we have to shift, when we have to move because things aren't working out the way that we expect it to work out. If you are here, say hello below. If you are on your way here, we welcome you. Thank you for joining us. And if you're watching the replay, I'm so happy that you decided to click the button and to join us today for Coffee and Community Conversation, where we cultivate communication and conversation around real topics for today. I'm so excited. Thank you, Christy. Good to see you. Jada, good to see you. Tara, good to see you. Jackie, good to see you. Teresa, good to see you. Thank you guys for being here. How many of you know who Stacey Abrams is? I want you to raise your hand and say me. I want you to say me if you know who she is. Anybody here watching from Wallace? Thank you, Aaron. Thank you for watching. And so today we're going to talk about Stacey Abrams. She was she's a powerful woman from Georgia who was in the race for governor. She did not win, but there were some things that happened between the time that she began to not just run, but the time when she decided to run for office until today. And I want to talk about the lessons that we can learn from what she did in such a powerful way and how she was used. If you are here and you've ever been discouraged by a tough situation that you face, if you are here and you've ever been saddened because you didn't feel like you had everything that you need, I want to encourage you today that Stacey Abrams has a pivot. And the same way she pivoted, you can pivot too. And so I'm so excited to give you these lessons to help you lean in, to help you learn, and to help you grow into who I believe you are called to be. You know, we are purpose driven. Not everybody's called to the church. Some people are called to the marketplace to do things and to set the example and to provoke change. And so if you're watching here, you are one of those world changers. You are one of those people. And I want you to join me and invite a friend. Don't be selfish about sharing this coffee and community conversation. Don't be selfish at all. So I'm also going to do something a little bit different today. I'm going to play a little sound so that you can hear. Well, maybe not, because YouTube might pull that down. I want to tell you a little bit about Stacey Abrams' story about when she was born and she was in school. She was extremely intelligent, and her teacher came to her one day and said, you have to stop using such big words, right? You make the other kids uncomfortable. So she went on a 2-week strike. For 2 whole weeks, she didn't speak. She didn't respond to any questions that she was asked. She didn't engage in conversation by the teacher. And so what the teacher did was call her mom. And when her mom came into the building, her mom didn't understand why her child, who was this brilliant Black girl, right, was all of a sudden conceding or confined and not having conversation inside the classroom. And Stacey Abrams said that she told her mom about what had happened, that the teacher told her that she had to be silent because she was making people uncomfortable. And her mom said this. Her mom said, don't hide your light. Don't dumb yourself down so that other people might feel uncomfortable. And that's the message that I want to share with you today. A message for all women, especially women who aspire to lead in today's time, especially women who may have circumstances that are stacked against you. You may be a Black girl and you know that the odds are sometimes stacked against you, or you may have some sort of a disability ability or not all the skills that you need. This is for you today. This is for you not to dumb yourself down, but to rise in purpose, to rise in power, to rise in significance, because there's something on the inside of you. It's called the Stacey Abrams Pivot. And I'm so honored and so excited that we get to see women of all races, of all colors in our lifetime provoking change in the lives of others, not just in a single community, but across the world. Are you still with me today? And so when that happened, Stacey Abrams' mom said, look, I need you to keep going. I don't need you to hide your light. And so if I had to kick this off with my first point for you today would be, don't hide your light or your fight. I need somebody to help me write that in the comment area. Don't hide your light or your fight, right? Don't hide who you are because it makes someone uncomfortable. Don't hide your fight, because sometimes when you don't fight, people don't think you have it in you. You have to let them see that there's something that's emerging from the inside, that there is greater on the inside of you than what they see. Don't hide your light and don't hide your fight. Somebody help me and write that in there, right? And so your light is how you shine, how you amplify other people, how you give good, right? How you are incredibly kind, and your fight is what you need to do and what you should have when you are in a tough situation and you're not sure what to do. Thank you, Tara. Don't hide your light or your fight. That's right. My second point for you today is I want you to learn how to redefine what it means to win. Watch this. Redefine what it means to win. Stacey Abrams didn't allow her shortcomings or insecurities of others to hold her back when she decided to run a campaign that focused on expanding the electoral vote and reaching out to voters. Commonly, it ignored in traditional races. She took her fate in her own hands, so she redefined what it means to win. And so many times when we're knocked down or when we are discouraged because of something that we see, we believe that we lost, but you only fail when you stop trying. Today, I want you to redefine what it means to win for you. Success is defined by individuals, not by a standard and not by a stereotype. That was good. I said success is not defined by a stereotype or a specific standard. It's defined by an individual. You redefine what it means to win. You redefine what success means to you. If success means to you is to see your kids graduate high school, then that becomes your win. If success for you is to move into a new place, then that becomes your win. If success means to grow in your career in a certain position, then that becomes your win. Don't let society and stereotypes make you believe that you have to measure up to a standard that they created. That doesn't belong to you. You redefine what you call winning. It's good. Now watch this. Stacey Abrams also shared a story about being elected as valedictorian, and she was invited to the governor's house. And on her TED Talk, she shares how it was amazing that this man lived in a mansion. And, her family, her mom and dad were studying at the time to become Methodist ministers. And so they didn't have a car. They didn't have much. She grew up in a poor area. So they had to take the bus all the way to Buckhead to get to the governor's mansion. And when they pulled up, she saw this big gate and this big mansion that was on top of a hill, but there was a guard there. And when they approached the guard gate, right, the guard said, "You don't belong here." And her father said, "My daughter is one of the valedictorians." Instead of him looking at the list, what he did was look at the bus. Listen to what I'm saying. He didn't look at the list that would have had her name. He looked at the bus. And people in your life will look at where you came from, but they don't look at what you've been named in your present. They'll look at your past, but they won't pay attention to your present. I don't want that to stop you. This is so good. I said that the guard at the gate looked at the bus behind her and not at her name being on the list. He paid more attention to her past than what he was going to do for her present. And so her mom and dad, who were studying to become preachers, they weren't pastors yet, she said. So her dad gave the guard a good talking to, and eventually he let them inside the gate because her name was on the list. But when she got there, she said that she didn't remember meeting other valedictorians. She didn't even remember meeting the governor. What she remembered was how she was treated when she approached the gate. So she decided 20 years later that she would be the one that opened the gate. This is the Stacey Abrams pivot. Ooh! She decided that she would be the one to open the gate because of a circumstance and the situation that she faced. And so you may have been in a situation where people may pay more attention to your past than your present, and it discouraged you. It hurt you. You still remember it, but it's at that moment right there where you can activate the pivot. You can activate the shift. You can activate what is in you and decide to make a change. It may not have come that same day or a day later, but it came 20 years later. She said 20 years later, she decided to be the one to open up the gate, to open up the doors for other young girls that look like her, for women from other races. She decided that she would do that. She redefined her win and she pivoted. This is good. This is good. She redefined her win and she pivoted. And so how do you practice your pivot? First, what is a pivot? A pivot is usually intended to help a business recover through a tough period or survive, after experiencing competition or other factors. It's when you shift, in the church we talked about shifting is when you move things. A pivot is when I owned an event and set design company and the industry went it changed. There was a depression and people didn't have the finances to pay for events anymore. So I had to create a product. I pivoted based on what was happening. And so a pivot is when you move based on the situation that you are facing. It's how you recover, right? It's your recovery method. You practice your pivot by constantly bouncing back when you're faced with difficult situations and difficult times in your life. You practice your pivot when somebody tells you no, but you still have a yes on the inside of you. You practice your pivot when you've been discouraged by a situation and circumstance that didn't work out the way you expected, but you still believe anyway. You practice your pivot every time you show up and you sell a product that you have, even though the people that you expect to show up don't show up. You practice your pivot every time you pick up a book and you read and you decide to engulf yourself in knowledge when people have told you that you wouldn't make it to a certain position in your life. You practice your pivot, right? Every time you take a step outside and you say, yes, I can, not no, I won't. You practice your pivot every time somebody walks out on you or leaves you, but you say, this is not going to take me out. I'm still going forward anyway. Practice your pivot. Practice your pivot. Every time you are in a tough situation, it's time for you to pivot. Time for you to pivot in power, pivot in purpose, and pivot in passion. She said that she used the situation that she could only remember that was supposed to be a happy time as a bad time to shake the trajectory of her life. And now she began to open doors for other people. What is your pivot? What is your pivot? Watch this. And when she ran for governor, I'm telling her story today. And when she ran for governor, right, we know what happened in that election. And this is not a place for politics. So please, y'all, if you're watching and you are a political fanatic and you want to talk about politics, don't do it here. Don't come for me. I'll dismiss you, right? In love. Come on, somebody. And so when she ran for governor and she lost, right, she recused herself. She bowed out gracefully. Right? Listen, she bowed out gracefully. She accepted the loss because she knew that she was going to redefine her win. Listen to what I'm saying. I said that she accepted the loss, right, in the public eye because she knew that she was going to redefine her win in power. Mark just said, I can relate. When I was dealing with adversity, it was Black women who checked on me. Later, I made the decision to pay it forward to help sisters caught up in the system after I was successful in suing the NYPD. Listen, y'all may not know Mark McPhee, but when I was in prison and when I was on my way home, I was able to find a job. I was able to get the resources I need because of Mark McPhee. Decades later, I'm reconnected to this man who helped me get connected during a difficult situation in my life. He helped me redefine my win and help me look at the circumstances of being in the big house to show me where I needed to pivot in power and in purpose. So good, so good. And so she bowed out gracefully. She knew that it was okay if it would look like a loss in the public eye, but she redefined her win. Now I want you to take notes right here and write this down. How did she redefine her win? She built a community, not a competition. This is good. During her historic run for governor, she framed her campaign's organization around building a coalition and community. She sought to connect with people who were invested in not only seeing change, but people who are interested in seeing a better future for all people. And so when you are practicing your pivot, when you are redefining a win from a loss, build a community, not a competition. Don't look at this as a way for you to flex your muscles or to work out or do something different because you have something to prove. Don't do it as a competition. Do it because you know that your ouch can be somebody's amen. You can build a community instead, a community of comrades and constituents, and maybe even some confidants, people that can come together for a cause that you can teach and that you can help lean in through the lessons that you learned in your life. Wow. Wow. Next, she conceded, but she did not conform. This is good. So when you're faced with a difficult situation, you can concede as long as you don't conform. When you conform, that means that you become like what you're facing. You become like the difficult situation that has been placed in front of you. So she conceded, but she did not conform. And so how many of you have been in a situation where you wanted to cuss someone out, where you wanted to retaliate with them with some words, not necessarily of wisdom, right? But you wanted to send the wind, or if you go to our church, you wanted to give these hands, whichever one it was, but you had made this decision that you wanted to retaliate because you believed that that was your only way to fight back. Today, I came to tell you that there's a way for you to fight differently. You can concede but not conform. And when you don't conform, my goodness, it helps build your character. I watched this. She conceded. She did not conform. And what that did, what it helped redefine her character in the public eye. The same public that saw her lose, where she redefined a win, saw her concede but not conform. And it helped shape the character that she had in their eyes. The streets are watching. And when you're faced with a difficult situation, they're watching to see what you do, why you do it, and how you do it. And so never conform, but it's okay to concede. Wow. Wow. The pivot. The pivot. A pivot doesn't start when you're an adult. It starts when you are a child. You can look back in your life like the story of Stacey Abrams and look at when she was a child, when she was told to be silent, when she was told to dim her light, when she was told that she shouldn't make others feel uncomfortable, not because of something that she was doing that was wrong, but because she was brilliant, because she was intelligent, because she was smart. How many of you here that's watching right now can say that you've conformed, that you have dumbed yourself down, you have diminished your light and your fight in front of people because you didn't want them to feel uncomfortable? Even worse, you didn't want them to think that you thought better of yourself than they thought of you. I'm going to wait. Anybody? You didn't want to let people know what was fully in you or what you were capable of because they look at you like you think you're better. And it's not that you're better, but you're brilliant. Anybody? Right? And what it does is it makes you uncomfortable. You have a give up spirit, and then you begin to conform. Slowly, you begin to become who they believe you are and not who you know you are. You become who they perceive you to be and not who you know you are. So you don't answer questions anymore. You don't engage in certain conversations. You act like you don't know things. Because every time you open up your mouth, you point a finger at you and you say, don't let them know that you know what that is. They're going to think that you think more about yourself than you should. And every time we dim our light and hide our fight, we take on the identity that someone else has placed on us and not who we actually are called to be. A pivot. A pivot is a shift from a circumstance and a situation that you faced in your life, one that may have been difficult. And we watched Stacey Abrams pivot from childhood to deciding that she wanted to open the door for others, to running for governor, to losing, but in using that loss to help redefine a win, to create a community, not a competition, to rally people for a purpose that she was passionate about. You can do the same thing. What have you gone through in your childhood that has caused you to define what you want to do in your future, your right now? What situations have you encountered a loss, but you know that if you use it in the right way, you can pivot and there's purpose and passion there? You know, I did a course called Redesigning the Blueprint. And when you redesign the blueprint, you redesign what you believe about yourself, what you believe about your situation, what you believe about your circumstance, and what you believe about your shift. You realize that there's something in you. And even though you may have experienced a season of losses, that if you redefine your win, you can walk into it victoriously. This is Coffee and Community Conversation. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. I want to take some feedback, some questions, some interaction from you guys. How are you pivoting in your life? What are you shifting and what are you changing that you are using that you thought was sent to hurt you, but you realize it can help you? I'm going to wait for comments and statements and questions before I move on and tell you about our new series that's kicking off next week. And I'm so excited about the opportunity I get to continue to have these conversations with you. I thought about bringing somebody on here for this Stacey Abrams Pivot, but I realized that it could have gotten political, and I never want that for anything that I do, because it would cause more of a divide than a unification. And so I wanted to jump on and share a little bit of her story, a little bit about a young girl who grew up poor, who was told to dim her light, and then had an opportunity to showcase who she was and was accepted as valedictorian. And at the very moment she thought she was going to celebrate, a shift happened. She was told that she didn't belong at the gate because of where she was coming from, not because of who she currently was at that time. My goodness. How many of us have been in that situation where we were told we didn't belong at the gate, at the table, in the room, in the house, because we were getting off the bus and approaching a mansion, approaching a situation or a circumstance that we thought we would go into with grace because we had done the work for it. We had checked every box and dotted every I and crossed every T. But when we got there, it was someone that was guarding the gate that told us that we didn't belong. And even though that situation is in the past, we still remember it now. Don't let anyone define you by your past. Your present day is powerful. I hope this encouraged you to pivot and not panic when you're faced with a problem. Christy says she's been there. Teresa said, I've never heard her story. Yeah, it's her story. Speak boldly now because I am who I am. Yes, Tara, thank you. That's right. Pivot. Don't panic when you're faced with the problem. There's purpose there. There's power there. And there's passion there. Where they told you no, there is a yes. Thank you guys so much for joining me for today's Coffee and Community Conversation. It was short. I'm trying to shorten it. It was simple. I'm your girl, PKO. If you're watching the replay, thank you for listening. I appreciate you guys being here. Next week, we kick off a new series. I'm so excited about it. I want to involve a few of you in this series that are on here. If you are a business owner, I want you to inbox me. I want to bring you on and talk about your business. We're going to talk about hood money, economics, and the different communities around the country and in our city. And so if you are a business owner, I want to celebrate you and showcase you. So I want you to send me your business name. That's right. Pivot. Don't panic when you face a problem. Y'all need to share that and tag me in it. And don't forget, if you signed up for the Formula for Fortitude, I know we pushed that back so many times, but it's happening today at 2 p.m. You should have the link. A reminder will go out at 12 noon for you to be there. The Formula for Fortitude is to teach you how to get the best out of the test. There's some situations and circumstances that we've all faced in our life that sometimes can hurt us and not help us. But the Formula for Fortitude is going to help you create a fight plan. It's going to help you shape a destiny diagram so that you can deal with dream killers and doubt. It's going to include a creative construct so you can conquer things that are constraining you, because it's time for you to use your supply to sustain you into structure. It shifted you for too long. And so I'm so excited to be doing that today. The replay will be available. And listen, if you signed up, don't forget to check your email, because there'll be something there for you at 12 noon. And finally, meet me back here on Monday and share this. I appreciate you guys watching. I'm PKO. I'm your girl. This has been Coffee and Community Conversation. Have an amazing day.